philosophy means love of wisdom. For eons, philosophers used time and energy to examine, dissect, discuss, and debate the who, what, and why of reality, and sometimes their efforts resulted in wisdom. At college, our philosophy professor stood in front of the class staring at me. "You know, don't you?" Silent, a bit embarrassed, I stared back. Rumor was that he used drugs and got naked in public, but I wasn't a witness to any odd behavior until that moment that he spoke to me. It was awkward. It was the mid-60s, and he seemed convinced that I knew the truth about him. It was possibly drug-induced paranoia best ignored. Aside from the distraction, I learned about the greats of philosophy, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, who asked the big questions in life, the what and why of it all. Welcome to Truth Talk Wisdom Walk with Sia Curtis. I'm Carolyn. Loving wisdom can get lost in the pages of knowledge and philosophy. Knowledge and experience were no guarantee of wisdom for my professor or myself. I don't know what happened to him since I moved out of town. What I learned was wisdom requires humility and love of truth, which then enables us to do the right thing. Humans naturally try to make sense of ordinary, everyday life, unusual events and disasters. Most of us are busy living life with little time to study the big questions. Yet everyone has a philosophy about life. From villagers in Africa to reindeer herders in Siberia, whose practical wisdom keeps them and their loved ones alive. I have learned wisdom from small children. I have learned wisdom from really, really old people. Well, yeah, even older than me. I've learned wisdom from many, many people. According to psychologytoday.com website, the comments on wisdom, quote, sociologist Monica R. Delt believes that individuals develop wisdom as personality characteristics encompassing reflection, compassion, and the pursuit of truth. I like her definition. That's like unquote. I like her definition because it includes actively pursuing truth, having a compassionate heart for others, thoughtful consideration. It also includes self-reflection. No snap judgments. How often do we make snap judgments and misjudge each other, especially if we listen to the nightly news? Paul of Tarsus, the same man who caused a ruckus in Israel back after Jesus was crucified and resurrected, confronted people. He spoke wisdom. He confronted people about making and then praying to handmade idols. He wrote in his letter to Romans 1, and that's the New American Standard, professing to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the incorruptible God for an image in the form of corruptible men and of birds and of four-footed animals and crawling creatures. And meanwhile, they're making them. Really? Therefore, because of what they were doing, God gave them over to the lusts of their hearts, to impurity, so that their bodies would be dishonored among them. For they exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. We're not supposed to worship mankind. Meanwhile, our knowledge of what is grows exponentially, accessed through our fingertips from the cloud. Data bytes bombard us with too much information for our minds to even process. Scrolling through sound bites leaves us with shorter attention spans, distractibility, and anxiety. Solomon's words in Ecclesiastes 12, 9 through 14, about a preacher's purpose comes to my mind. In addition to being a wise man, the preacher also taught the people knowledge. And he pondered, searched out, and arranged many proverbs. The preacher sought to find delightful words, to write words of truth correctly. The words of wise men are like goads, and masters of these collections are like well-driven nails. They are given by one shepherd. But beyond this, my son, be warned. The writing of many books is endless, and excessive devotion to books is wearying to the body. Whoa, that means books can be idols. Okay. The conclusion, when all has been heard, is fear God and keep His commandments, because this applies to every person. For God will bring every act to judgment, whether everything which is hidden, whether it is good or evil. Wow. What would the internet be like if everyone who posted online made an effort to correctly speak and write words of truth? It takes a lot of effort. Since that is not the case, we're obliged to divide fact from fiction, as if our health depended on it. A small number of people can and do give an impression that radical, unhealthy behaviors are the new acceptable norm. And divisive foreign bots even influence our elections before they're being taken down. It's citizen beware, it's scroller beware. Passions untamed still lead to broken promises. In 1835, Alfred Lord Tennyson, in Locksley Hall, wrote of a fictional sailor who wrestled with passion. He reminisces about his beloved, then turns to judgment, ashamed to love his faithless, shallow cousin who wed a brute at her parents' demand and against honest nature's rule. The poet writes of a one-world utopian federation which affords unbridled passion. His famous quote speaks of wisdom. Knowledge comes, but wisdom lingers, and I linger on the shore, and the individual withers, and the world is more and more. Knowledge comes, but wisdom lingers, and he bears a laden breast. Full of sad experience, moving toward the stillness of his rest. The sailor longs to leave civilization and sail the seas in search of paradise. There, the passions, cramped no longer, shall have scope and breathing space. I will take some savage woman, and she shall rear my dusky race. Well, learned in 8th grade, I quoted and still quote, knowledge comes, but wisdom lingers, and she bears a laden breast full of sad experience. Whenever I'm faced with some breathtaking foolishness of my own or someone else's, Tennyson's words come to mind. It's just as well that I didn't read the entire poem to the part about women's, quote, blinder motions bundled in a shallower brain. Woman is the lesser man, for his view on woman was shaped by his culture and by unrequited youthful love. It's best we sift the past and the present cultures for our grains of wisdom and discard the chaff. With free will, we're invited to ponder, contemplate, and experiment with knowledge. And today, as in centuries past, we question what is right or wrong, true or false. And we choose between this or that, even between life and death. Certainly we choose between what we even pay attention to. Yet we live with the consequences of our choices for good or bad. And then we act shocked when there's a painful price to pay for stubbornness, arrogance, or plain foolishness. Negative consequences suggest an objective reality beyond our personal passions and feelings. Do we learn from nature's rule? Do we discern wisdom when she speaks or shouts in the public square? Do we listen and learn and choose to walk in wisdom in our passion-saturated culture? Where is the plumb line or division between right and wrong, foolishness and wisdom? We would do well to think critically and sift knowledge with a plumb line in mind. The 8th century BC prophet Isaiah in 28 records the words of his sovereign Lord Almighty. I will make justice the measuring line and righteousness the plumb line. How do we live? When moral right living is important. Usually the most ordinary people live caring for our families and each other. Worldwide, most people value the common virtues like honesty, integrity, fairness, justice, and wisdom. And after Jesus was crucified and rose from the dead, his half-brother James the Just became the leader in Jerusalem. In his letter, James 3:13 through 18, he wrote about wisdom. Who among you is wise and understanding? Let him show by his good behavior, his deeds, in the gentleness of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your heart, don't be arrogant and lie against the truth. This wisdom is not that which comes down from above, but is earthly, natural, and even demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there is disorder and every evil thing. But wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, reasonable, full of mercy and good fruits, unwavering and without hypocrisy. And the seed, whose fruit is righteousness, is sown in peace by those who make peace. Since we learn from what we experience, see, and hear, what would happen if wisdom literature was taught and was required middle school reading? What if we expected students to want to live long, healthy lives and avoid stupid choices? What if we respect their ability to be strong, to stand alone, and to say no to stupid? Proverbs 1 is direct and to the point with a father's warning. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, hey, come with us, lie in wait for blood, let us ambush the innocent without cause, let us swallow them alive like Sheol, that's the place of the dead, even whole as those who go down to the pit, we will find all kinds of precious wealth. We will fill our houses with spoil. Hey, throw in your lot with us. We shall have all one purse. This can be a problem with disengaged or absent fathers, or the false promises of bad friends. I reported a neighborhood gang once, bored boys stealing for excitement and finding trouble. We see the problem around us, and when justice is slow, the debt compounds. In Proverbs, the strong father continues to guide, and we need strong protective fathers who will take the time to speak to their sons and daughters. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Keep your feet from their path, for their feet run to evil, and they hasten to shed blood. Indeed, it is useless to spread the baited net in the sight of any bird, but they lie in wait for their own blood. They ambush their own lives. So are the ways of everyone who gains by violence. It takes away the very life of its possessor. Wisdom shouts in the street. She lifts her voice in the square. At the head of the noisy street, she cries out. Things haven't changed. At the entrance of the gates in the city, she utters her sayings. How long, O naive ones, will you love being simple-minded? And scoffers delight themselves in scoffing, and fools hate knowledge. Turn to my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit on you. I will make my words known to you. Now that's a stark read for you. The naive and simple-minded, scoffers scoffing, fools hating knowledge, are warned and invited to change direction and aim up instead of down. Imagine them instead knowing and walking in wisdom. There was so much drivel in my elementary classroom reading books that I had to invite students to critique the really silly, amoral stories. How is it that in my college Love of Wisdom philosophy class, we failed to also consider ancient Near Eastern wisdom literature, which predated Greek thought? Perhaps I was distracted by my professor's drug issues. I confess, as a student with the glamour of Greek ideas on the menu, I don't recall at that moment caring about ancient wisdom. Years later, I hosted a weekly study, and a group of diverse people read through Proverbs together, all ages. One young man was hurting, lonely, separated from his wife, and headed toward divorce. Learning from Proverbs, just our reading together and discussion together, he opened himself to God's wisdom, which changed, totally turned around, changed his defensive attitude and actions toward his wife. Things turned around and they reconciled, thanks to wisdom. Changed his life. Wisdom matters, and you matter. And your life may depend on it. Encourage one another, love truth, be grateful, and do good. And thank you for joining this journey. Until we meet again.